Welcome back. Still Breakfast Extra. Now, with the Anambra elections now concluded and results in, one thing is clear. Good elections start, long before polling day. They begin at the voter registration desk. Now, Nigeria has millions of unregistered adults and gaps in the database that affects both representation and governance. Today, we explore why registration is foundational for democracy and how organizations are working to make sure younger Nigerians are ready and counted.
So to make sure that they are indeed ready and counted, forgive me. Joining us will be Kunle Lawal. He is a member of the Electoral College. He joins us live now. Joining us subsequently will be Elvis Akpobi. But Mr. Lawal, good morning to you and welcome to the program.
Good morning, and it's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, your shirt or your jersey almost caused a civil war in this building, but all the same, it's a Sunday, so I forgive you. Well, let's start with the numbers, shall we? What percentage of Nigerians eligible voters remain unregistered, and what are the implications for representation and fairness?
Okay, first and foremost, a good democracy is always immersed in inclusion. Nigeria has as of now, about a 97 million voter population, but approximately 97 million voter population. Potential to have close to, averagely, give or take, 110 million voters. But that is approximation. We haven't done a census recently. What's most shocking in the entire system is the fact that Nigeria now has only 28% of that participation of 97 million, which is roughly about 26 point something million voters participating in the presidential election. When you come down to a gubernatorial election, you're having less than 20 million participation. When it comes to a local government election, then you have less than 6 million participation across Nigeria. This voter apathy holding back, I think, will not be restricted to only voter registration. I think we have diversed a bit because from 99 we've driven in conjunction with major CSOs and the orientation agency, all talking about voting. From 2023, the Electoral College Nigeria has decided to slide in a different direction. If you look at every basic or every complex, every working democracy, there's one key thing you'd understand. They are party members. Nigeria does not have 500,000 due-paying members in any political party in Nigeria, and that's bad. So we are now tending to, from 2023, the work of the Electoral College is ensuring people are part of parties. When they're part of parties, they are invested in the election, and this helps even with the selection process, because the more people that participate in a party, then the more probable that the candidate who emerges from the primaries is more what the people want there as the person to represent them in elected office.
Now, we know registration, of course, is more than, ticking a box, right? But in your view, how does the act of registering, translate into a better governance?
I don't think it translates into better governance. The Electoral College of Nigeria puts political illiteracy at approximately 82% in Nigeria. And this is because even though people participate in elections, if you ask the average person, what does someone in the House of Rep, what is he to do? Their first conversation will be constituency projects or executive functions, which are totally unconstitutional, and even the constituency projects have no constitutional backing. But that's what we discuss. We don't talk about laws. We don't talk about oversight functions. It's so bad that the average Nigerian doesn't even understand how parties work. We do not understand the difference between indirect and direct primaries. We also do not understand quite a lot of things that go on within the system. So someone who doesn't know how a good manifesto looks, someone who doesn't understand the jurisdictions of office, of a particular person in office or a particular person, candidates looking for an office, how is he supposed to make the right choices? And that's why we make our choices based on tribe, religion, sometimes age, and now even gender. So let's talk about the bottlenecks, right? It's one thing to,
ask Nigerians to come out and register during the continuous voter registration exercise. But it's another when we look at the bottlenecks when it comes to voter registration. Infrastructure is one, right? But youth disengagement is another as well, and it's been hampered upon over and over again. And so let's talk about that youth disengagement and infrastructure for the far hard-to-reach regions. How can we close the gaps?
Well, for me, I'd like to take on first the youth disengagement. I think Nigeria generally are disengaged with the process of electing our leaders. The only thing we are concerned with is the product that emerges. We never care about the process. So our entire conversation is always, president's not doing this, the governor is not doing this is not going on, this is not done right. And those have been the problems which have been prevalent in all our conversations, which goes back to political illiteracy we I was talking about. Because all we want to discuss is, the product and not the process. As regards hard to reach regions and issues with getting to these positions, I think that Nigeria should have embarked on a more serious campaign. I think people in the hinterland actually even participate more, from our statistics, participate more averagely than you will have somebody in, let's say, a complex area, a more educated area, like, let's say, Ikoyi. You have less people participating in an election in Ikoyi than you have in, let's say, Kaura Namuda, which is at the border. I think that's where the rail line stops in Zamfara. You have more people participating in elections there than you have people participating in Ikoyi, or you have people participating in Wuse 2 or Maitama, for instance. So I don't think it lands exactly at the exact issue. I think the fact that we don't have correct civic education in secondary schools, which helps build, people's thirst for this, and parties do not recruit at we don't have legacy parties in Nigeria, so we do not run a recruitment system which people start to participate in party activities even from secondary school upwards. I feel those are the problems we have with, even registration, apathy, and disengagement from politics.
All right, so we're being told that Elvis has joined the conversation. Elvis, thank you so much for joining. If you can hear me, I'd like you to, of course, just answer this question, which has to do with the fact that we know that you deal directly with young people. But tell us, what are the main reasons many youth say they haven't registered? Is it a case of poor information, distrust, cost of time, or apathy? Which is it?
Okay, from conversations I've had with a lot of young folks, a lot of young people in Nigeria don't have trust. They don't have trust in their electoral system. And for me, to make progress, you need to build trust. When there's no trust, people don't want to get involved in electoral activities. You see cases where you encourage the younger generation to, get involved in the electoral process. They tell you that with their vote counts. And another thing that is key again is, how have we fared all this while during the election? Is it what is on the book? What does the reality replicate what's on the book? These are the things that will make young people want to get involved. But like I always encourage them is, elections are only rigged when there's voter apathy and when people don't get involved in it. But we've seen cases where a lot of persons get involved and they find out that when the results came out, it's not what they anticipated, that's what they get. So I think President INEC chairman have a whole lot of role to play. Fine, we give people chances. So we're giving him we're giving him a chance to prove himself that there's a new INEC. I was privileged to, be an electoral observer in the last election that brought the present Liberia president. And 2 days before the election, I engaged some young persons that I saw young people who were so confident in their electoral umpire. And what happened in that election? At the time, there was a runoff with the incumbent president. Yeah, they tied and there was a runoff. I asked myself, after the president was declared the winner, that if this thing were to be in Nigeria, will this result come out? That's the question I asked myself. And to date, I'm not bold to even say the answers are. So for me, we've been advocating for young people to be in power. I think the next trajectory is to advocate on electoral reforms, on how the INEC chairman is being appointed and nominated, because there's a saying that goes to us that those that pays the piper, the takes the tone. And a lot of young people believe that it will always be like that, except the present INEC chairman will have to, prove us wrong.
Right. Elvis, as we're talking about, advocating for youth engagement just beyond registration, you've talked about the issue of, trust, which is very big, not just amongst the youth, but also the entirety of the Nigerian populace. But how then can we connect registration to actual civic participation, besides just leadership roles? Actual civic participation. Do you see youth being engaged when it comes to civic duties and responsibility and participation? This, besides protest, because that's a completely different conversation entirely.
They teach people one thing over and over again, mostly when they are much younger. That thing becomes part of them. There were times back in school, we were taught civic education. I don't know if that's still taking place. So if there is, our academic policies need to be amended that to make people more patriotic, one, and to teach people on the importance and need to get involved in the processes that brings in their leader. And then for them to know that when they stay outside the processes, that's where bad leadership emerges. And when bad leadership is at the front border, even their destiny, their future is being affected. So I think it's time, aside the mathematics and the English that we're so deliberate about, I would say it's compulsory, you must pass mathematics, compulsory. It's time there's a particular subject that makes it compulsory, that teaches people, that instills in citizens that we all need to get involved in the processes that best leadership. And getting involved means voters registration, for compulsory voters registration for every citizen, which should be even a prerequisite for someone to want to either access loans or whatever financial transactions. And if we do it, if we drive such a conversation, I think a lot of people will want to get involved in whatever activities like voter registration. But still, we'll continue campaigning because we will not mind our business. We will not be complacent because the future of Nigeria lies in our actions and inactions. We'll continue convincing people, mostly young people, that they need to register to vote. And it's only when they register to vote they can decide the outcomes of election. Why we will beg the electoral umpire that they need to build trust among Nigerians.
Let me come back to you now, Mr. Lawal. Of course, we know that 2027 elections is just a few years from now, but tell us what concrete strategies should INEC, and civil society and even governments prioritize to get more people to enroll, especially, marginalized youth?
Well, for me, one of the steps we're taking at the Electoral College is, like I said, driving, people to join political parties so they can influence primaries. More people can influence primaries in Nigeria. I think the second one will be improving political literacy, which is something we already do. And we're expanding our reach generally. We're moving out into SUGs, we're breaking into other conversations. So we have the SUG literacy cohorts and etc. The Electoral College too is planning footnotes of, massive mass enlightenment campaigns, in using things, people would love to relate with, which is celebrities which they know and etc. As regards INEC, I think INEC, one of the key things INEC should be moving forward or looking forward to improving is guaranteeing automatic transmission of results. Electronic transmission of results, sorry. And I think this will be critical to the promises made, though it wasn't against the law, the promises made in 2023 that were botched by and moral commitment to citizens. At least if INEC takes it to that level, I think I'd love to see that. I love the fact that I'm beginning to see a lot of improvement with people living with disabilities on voting, and I saw that in the Anambra, just concluded Anambra election, which I thought was highly impressive. INEC too should be looking forward to campaign financing. I think the core issues with vote buying, with rigging of elections and etc., would be if we are able to enforce our laws on campaign financing and enforce laws on vote buying and etc. All those offenses around elections. I think if INEC can enforce that, then I think we don't even need a whole new set of laws. We just need those existing laws to already be in motion, because the laws seem static, but from campaign financing to, I think, Section 92 of the Electoral Act, which clearly states that state apparatus cannot be used in support of anyone in an election. I think that's 92.2 or 92.1 of the Electoral Act. And we've seen state apparatus, and state apparatus doesn't only refer to cars and state financing, it also refers to essays and etc., championing the cause of their principle in an election.
Right. You talked about, party level, right? But I do have to ask, when you're getting into party level, we've seen how the youth, those who are underprivileged or in a certain social strata are somewhat used for some certain activities, right? And so let's talk about that. At a party participation level, can the youth be engaged in a way that's beneficial to them and not for other act very quickly, because I'm being told we don't have any time.
Yes. I think that can be very possible. I was the National Publicity Secretary of a political party at 34 then.